So, Gabriela, you've spent 20 years in brand and commercial marketing, 13 years at Profit, and previously you were the global CMO at Alpha Insights. You're now CMO at Third Bridge. Can you tell us a little bit about what Third Bridge does and more about your background?
Yeah, of course. So ThirdBridge is a global research provider, and our clients are people who work at hedge funds, consultancies, or corporates. And if you think about their research workflows, we actually come in when the data runs out, essentially. So when they've read all of the different analyst reports that they can, when they've read, everything they can on FactSet and Bloomberg and all these other places, they come to us because they need human insights from people who have actually lived in the businesses that they're trying to research, that have real life experiences in the industries that they're trying to learn about. So that's where we're in a very specific field of business research, which is very much about the human layer and the human expertise. Yeah.
Okay, great. Can we talk a little bit more about the human expertise when you're operating in a world where AI is changing automation and the production of information so quickly? How does that shape your philosophy on marketing?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Actually, it's one of the reasons why I was so excited to be at Third Bridge at this moment in time because AI is absolutely revolutionizing how everybody is accessing business research, right? And it really doesn't matter who the provider is, right? If the provider is a legacy name or a company like Third Bridge. Um, but essentially what AI or my view is that what AI really enables people to do is to access infinite amounts of information and synthesize that information, more effectively, more cheaply, and in less time. But you still need high quality information, right? Otherwise, the access is completely useless, right? And if anything, it could be dangerous, right? Because it could lead you to the incorrect conclusions. And so that's why I think it's like a really there is a tension, of course, because in but we're benefiting from the tension rather than suffering from it, because as people are consuming more data from more sources, the value in the quality of the source becomes even more important, right? People are trying to sift through um, the hallucinations, right? They're trying to sift through data sources that are not relevant to them, or not attributable to a valid sort of a piece of source material. So AI is actually a huge enabler of our business because it just highlights the importance of quality.
Absolutely. And we were talking about data sources and the importance of quality. Another thing that Third Bridge does is employee advocacy over necessarily just like a faceless branded account. Can you talk more about the choice behind that and how that might actually help build trust with your audience?
Yeah, yeah, of course. So there again, I mean, I think fundamentally, you know, a- advocacy strategies on social media are super important in any industry because people like to buy from people, not just from faceless logos, right? And that's very much true in our industry with our target clients of professional investors who are incredibly discerning individuals, right? Um, in addition to that, right, I think that, one of the other wonderful side effects about employee, advocacy strategy is that it's turned sort of marketing into a we activity, into a firm-wide activity. It's no longer that you have the marketing team posting on social media and trying to grow our following and engagement all by themselves in a corner. We now have so many individuals in the business, the individuals with all the contacts with the experts, the contacts with the clients, right, with the prospects who are participating with us, right, in this great adventure of trying to share our knowledge and our value prop with the world, right? So it's also been like a really fantastic sort of culture shift in the business to kind of involve everybody in this task.
Okay, culture. That sounds super important. Keeping up and seeing how it's impacting the actual culture as well. Um, what about the culture of AI generated mass content and how that erodes trust? Can you speak to that at all and just how you're trying to decide where AI adds value in your workflows versus where you want to avoid using it so you can maintain that authenticity?
Yeah. So we're a very AI forward company when it comes to using AI to produce content. It's not just the marketing team that's using it. It's literally every single team in the business that is using AI to produce content. And the philosophy is pretty simple. It's that AI is there to remove friction, but never to replace thinking, right? So AI, what that means concretely is that AI is going to help you write the first draft, or it's going to maybe you'll have a great brainstorming session, right, with Claude or something to identify topics, and you can identify topics after having uploaded data into your LLM, right? So we use it in those ways to yeah, to brainstorm, to write a first draft, to maybe run analyses that we're going to put into content, right? But essentially, to do a lot of sort of the early work or the grunt work and quickly land on a decent to strong draft, and then the humans really have to come in and do a lot of editing, right, and a lot of fine tuning. So that's the way we've been using AI for content creation, and that's true whether it's marketing for newsletters and blog posts and email campaigns, but also for our commercial teams, right? Who are client facing, and who are using similar tools or skills that we build for them. In order to create really value additive, tailored pieces of content for their clients.
Yeah, there's a few things that you brought up there that I think would be interesting to expand on. I don't want to lose anything. The first thing was um, the actual skills. You mentioned skills. Not everyone listening might understand like what Claude skills are. Do you mind elaborating on that a little bit? Because I think a lot of people understand the basics of prompting, but like skills are kind of the next level to that. So can you speak to that?
Yeah, of course. So I'd say the way I always try to explain it is if when you prompt, you're basically giving the LLM like a very simple piece of direction, with maybe very little, very simple logic, as in please execute A. When you're writing a skill, it's like a longer sentence, right? It's multiple pieces of logic, multiple requests. So if A, then B, and C, please consider all of these variables and come up with an answer, right? So essentially, a skill is a more complex um, request that you make of an LLM, right? But just like every request that you make of an LLM, you need to provide context, and you need to provide an information source that the LLM can query so that it can execute on it. Um, so and there are a lot of great skills that the LLMs offer off the shelf. At Third Bridge, we build a lot of custom skills for our people to use in different departments. And we actually also even build skills for our clients, right? So that when our clients are accessing our information through an LLM, they can use our skills to sort of get the ball rolling and to start engaging with our insights through an LLM interface. Because as you pointed out, right, people are still it's still pretty nascent technology, right? So people are at different levels of comfort
Right.
and adoption. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, how does like policy come into place here? Is it, are you kind of like when you're talking about using it as like a first iteration or a sparring partner, is that do you have policies in place of like the types of information that you're able to put in? Are you just using it freely? Is it information that's already public? Like how are you making considerations to consider like the data privacy aspect of things?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is like, of course, you need to be on an enterprise version of an LLM, right? So you need to make sure that your data is protected that way, and at least our infosec team take that very seriously, and they make sure that we're all engaging with the right with certain LLMs and not others, and that we're engaging with them was on an enterprise version. Um, in addition to that, yeah, we definitely do have some guidelines around content that we can upload and content that we cannot, right? In our industry, one of the key no-nos is to not upload any personal information because we have a ton of personal information about our experts, right? And we need to make sure that we protect that and that it doesn't get used in the incorrect way. The other thing that we do is because we have an MCP product in market, we actually are able to connect the LLM that our employees use to our product, to our MCP, so they can access the full richness of our third bridge content library, but in a safe way, in a compliant way, because it's all of those compliance rule markers about what level of detail can be shown to who, do which details might have to be edited out. That's all been accounted for in the development of our MCP product, essentially.
Okay. Yeah, very cool and very important. We're going to shift the conversation a little bit to how AI has impacted brand discovery and search.
Mm.
So, y'all have reported that 45%, nearly half of your website traffic comes from organic search and direct brand searches rather than paid. How does AI play a role in that? Knowing for Google Chrome, for example, you see AI summaries or people are going to these RAG chatbots to do kind of their initial research. How is that impacting your brand, and what are some of the trends you're seeing there?
Yeah, so it's definitely impacted our marketing strategies for sure. And we really doubled down on SEO and sort of GEO and really revamped our website to be optimized for that. And we also completely revamped our sort of essentially our blog strategy on our website in order to perform better or to be more easily scraped by LLMs, right? So acknowledging the fact that that is how a lot of people are going to discover us. So it's it's caused us to have to hire different types of talent, right, to implement these strategies as well. These were new skills, which, I didn't have and people in the team didn't have. And so we had to bring in some external experts to really help us figure out how to implement it. But it was totally worth it. I mean, within 4 to 5 months, we were seeing incredibly good results. Um, and and I think I guess it paid off for us because also in our industry, some of our competitors weren't as fast moving, so it really gave us a nice edge, right? We got that first mover advantage there.
If you're ready to boost your business with top-notch content, podcasts, videos, or need expert support in public relations and digital marketing, we want to hear from you. Simply contact the form link in the show description or visit growthstackmedia.com to schedule a call.
Okay, yeah, first mover advantage. That's awesome. Yeah, that's super important. It seems like y'all have kind of gotten ahead of this, and there's a lot of brands that are still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
From our side, we see earned media is is a big part of it too. So getting those articles and the third party validation from very trusted domains and trade publications and business publications to help source what the LLMs are citing. So we definitely see that there as well.
Well, and actually just to that point, right? Like we also we spend a lot of effort as well on PR, right? And to your point, and one of the reasons why we invest a lot of time and energy on PR is first of all, we have like these amazing sector analysts in our business who all the journalists always want to have on their programs and interview
Right.
and that's a fantastic asset for us. Um
Yeah.
and is great for brand like amplification, et cetera. But also, as you pointed out, having those links from really high profile, well respected publications is wonderful for our SEO and GEO performance, right? So I think, you really can't think about it just in isolation. It has to be part of a omni-channel marketing strategy or at least a multi-prong marketing strategy.
Yeah, I think it's been really interesting, from like a traditional SEO perspective, just kind of following, what Google's going to, even before AI search, like how they were going to handle cookies and like how pretty much their iterations that they're rolling out were kind of upending how a lot of brands approached paid search and organic search. And I just left to wonder, like, if what the LLMs cite, like who's really controlling that and eventually will it shift to other sources? So right now we're getting that benefit from earned media. I don't want to I don't know the exact percentage, but there is a good portion that like comes from Reddit,
Mm.
YouTube, for example. So I just wonder if over time it'll either equalize out from all the different sources it's pulling from across the internet, or we're going to see like a big shift towards another source outside of earned media, which is something that keeps me up at night personally because on a day to day, a lot of what we're doing is the earned media side of things.
Yeah. I think you also brought up a really interesting point when you first phrased the question was what is the impact on brand? And I think, going back to my comment about we were sort of in the first mover group for our industry. I think that there is a brand benefit to that as well, right? So we're trying to position ourselves within our industry as very innovative and very AI first, and so there are brand equity advantages also to investing in these strategies because it helps. You have the the discoverability element, which is a plus, but you also have the brand equity benefit, which is just showing our customers, our clients that we are truly innovative and AI first when it comes to our own business strategy and what we implement.
Absolutely. Um, how can if you're just zooming out for a second, how can CMOs and other senior level marketers advocate for AI and just unlocking budget to use AI at their company? And like, what should they prioritize first for a company that maybe even if their big gap might be security or compliance? If they were able to get over that hurdle and unlock some budget to leverage AI for their marketing efforts, how could they go about that conversation and like where should they start?
Yeah, that's a really, really interesting question. And I've been so fortunate to not have the budget constraint at Third Bridge. I would say that so I kind of think about it in two ways. You can approach budgeting conversations about AI as an efficiency tool, so a workflow efficiency tool, which essentially means you're building a case about how you're going to save costs, right? Or you'll empower humans to do more by essentially giving them leverage, right? So you have that sort of line of argumentation. The other line of argumentation, which I think it hadn't dawned on me until we were actually maybe 6 months into our, AI enablement strategy at Third Bridge, is that you actually have an opportunity to really educate clients, right? And so I was mentioning we build cloud skills as well for our clients, right? Um, and so what we've learned through experience is that you can actually position AI tooling as a revenue enabler in the same way that you might discuss investment in customer success or account management, right? Or functions like that, right? So I think that's also a very interesting way to make the budget case, and one which when I speak to other CMOs is less obvious, is not necessarily the path that everyone is used to taking yet, but is certainly one which I've observed internally as being incredibly just factually true, right? We yeah. Mhm.
Absolutely. I mean, you're talking about also like you really have to stay on top of everything that's out there and be kind of thinking with an open mind about okay, this week, maybe the models are changing, but new tools are popping up and just constantly trying to figure out how can I fit these into different portions of my workflow? Where do I, still need to do a lot of the heavy lifting? And it's really amazing just to see how much that's shifting week to week. And so that's another goal of this podcast is to get experts on that are really kind of sharing like, what are these workflows? What's working for them? What tools are they using? So I really appreciate you sharing more about that. And you're also the founder of an AI-enabled platform, Kalinda. Can you tell us about that and what you're working on there?
Yeah. So Calenda is essentially a kids activity platform. So it's
Okay,
kind of
cool.
like what ClassPass did for adults taking gym classes and things like that, but a version of that for children. And unfortunately, because I took the role at Third Bridge, I had to put Calenda on pause. So I wasn't. I'm no longer actively running it. Right. Wait, because I just bandwidth, right? I couldn't do 2 things at the same time. Um, but I'm so glad that I did it before I joined Third Bridge because I think that experience is what helped me sort of add value in a different way at Third Bridge than I've had in my previous CMO mandate. I mean, essentially, I did, the first year of a startup, going from concept to building a product from scratch, launching the product, having users, figuring out how to incorporate AI in the middle of my first year because it went from being kind of irrelevant and to being a key access channel. So,
Yeah.
so I learned a lot, and more crucially, I literally learned how to build a thing and take it to market, which is something I had never had to do before. Um, and I think that's made me a better CMO now.
Yeah, I think that's a really unique experience because, a lot of times when you're getting in that senior leadership position, some of the execution work, and if not a lot of it on the day to day, might be delegated to your team, but you're actually learning, in the trenches, doing the reps, seeing how every single facet and every single cog in the wheel is working. So when you're also coming to this new CMO position, you're able to take all that learning and that unique experience and say, like, hey, this is what worked for me. This is also what we could avoid to save time. So that's definitely invaluable. You've also been named Management Today's Women in Leadership on their power list for this year. And you're also doing guest lecturing at London Business School. So for the next generation of marketers and media leaders that are coming up and trying to earn a seat at the table, what's your advice to them?
Um, Gosh, it's always hard to be really crisp, right? When people ask you this question.
Uh-huh.
Um, so I have, I think probably my two biggest pieces of advice, and the first one, I'm going to warn you, it's not particularly uh, like politically correct. It's not a very popular one, but
Okay.
I'm a CMO, but I'm also a mom and I'm also a wife, right? And I happen to have married like very, very young. And I think I've had so much luck in my career and I've had so many opportunities and I've had so many great mentors, but I wouldn't have been able to take advantage of any of that if I hadn't had, my husband, if I hadn't had that particular life partner. He has been a tremendous enabler to my career. Um, he's taught me technical things, he's giving me advice, he's made sure to really help me carry the load of parenting and just adulthood and the complexities of life. Um, and he's made sure that I never felt an ounce of guilt for having to work really, really hard, right? So I know that, it may not seem, um, like the easiest advice to take, but honestly, I think the person I decided to marry, the person I decided to build my life with, that was probably the most impactful career decision I ever made. Um
Yeah. I mean, I can definitely appreciate that. My wife is also my business partner and helped me grow this thing. So, we're definitely partners in all aspects of life and there to support each other. So I know how much that really makes a difference. And they're seeing, all the hours you're putting in and you're also like working towards things together. And it's good to have two different brains working on the same problem and getting that insight from each other. So that's super cool. We just have a couple more questions.
Yeah.
And this one, I'm thinking ahead a little bit, because around, October, November tends to be kind of the prediction season for the following year. So, I'd love to know, we're a little early, but what is your 2027 prediction for AI's impact on media and marketing?
Oh gosh, yeah, so on, um So on media, what I'm very interested to see is if we all start consuming media as in news through LLMs essentially, right?
Okay.
And then if that then evolves into using AI to synthesize news for us, right? So this isn't something which I think is very prevalent yet. And I love consuming media and I love visiting different media publications, websites, and I love listening to different podcasts and things like that. But I do appreciate that when I contrast my personal media consumption habits with my, let's call it, data and information consumption habits in the world of work, One
Yeah.
is like going in one direction of efficiency, and the other one is going in the direction of leisure. And so I'm wondering if actually some of my more leisure orientated habits of media consumption are going to start changing. So I guess that's one thing. I don't know if it'll happen next year, but that's something that I personally am really curious to keep an eye on and see if we see patterns shifting. And then when it comes to marketing, I think we're gonna see, a lot more, people just getting a lot savvier about how to work well with, the LLMs. I think everyone's just kind of been figuring it out, trying stuff. Some things work, some things don't, and I think, next year, people are gonna start to, like, really understand. Paid is gonna come out on some of the LLMs, right? People are gonna start experimenting with that right there. So yeah, that's my prediction for next year. Marketers are going to start to kind of know what they're doing, whereas this year, I don't think any of us really know. We're just experimenting.
Yeah, there's a lot of, like, testing and just seeing what's working. I'm also seeing, like, a lot more blending whereas, in the past, there was a lot of silos between you're a PR agency or marketing agency or creative agency, you're an influencer marketing agency. At the end of the day, we're trying to find out where our audience's attention is, um, and get those eyeballs. So you mentioned omni-channel earlier in the conversation. I agree with you. I think that the habits are gonna continue to shift. There are a couple things that came to mind. So there's an LLM. So Perplexity, I think
Mhm.
from like a news side, they're kind of an example that's a little bit further ahead in terms of how they kind of aggregate news sources and will give you summaries. So that's something to look at. But just in terms of like pulling out an app on your phone and getting like a very curated digest
Yeah.
of everything you like and multimedia from different sources, that's super interesting to me. And so we'll definitely be on the lookout for that. And so, what are the best ways for our listeners to reach you?
The best way to reach out is LinkedIn. I'm always very responsive on LinkedIn. One of the advantages of reaching out to me on LinkedIn is then you can learn a little bit more about Third Bridge and what we do and consume some of our content. So please reach out to me there.
All right, great. Thanks for coming on the show, Gabriella.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.